Hello, everyone.
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween! Michael, the librarian of magic here, finding and cataloging the magical and pointing you to it. Today is, of course, Halloween.
Halloween!
The 31st, we made it all the way to the end.
Yay!
But I still have one more treat, one more drawing. The same disclaimers on this drawing apply the same as the rest of them. You can go to the first video in this series. If you're getting caught up or you want to see where I get all these drawings from, go check that out. But with that out of the way, the final Halloween treat of the month
Woohoo!
is Dragon Maleficent battling Prince Philip on his horse.
Yep.
And last year, if you followed these, you might remember I double dipped with Mim and Dragon Mim, and I did the same thing this year with Maleficent and Dragon Maleficent because they're dragons.
I know, they're so cool.
And this one's just really
This is
cool.
like more dramatic and terrifying dragon too.
Yep. Yeah, we'll talk about that. You may have wondered when I made the Maleficent video, you may have been wondering, how come you never talked about the dragon? And how come you didn't have any interesting tidbits about that? Because I was waiting for this video. Haha. This was really fun to draw. This is based on a still from the movie, but I kind of changed the scale a little bit from my sketchbook. All of the backgrounds are sort of inspired by the still, but I sort of winged it, especially on the thorns and the road in order to fit it, or the bridge in order to fit it to my scale. But Philip the horse, Samson, right, is the name of the horse?
I think so.
And
yes, it is.
The dragon, I used the image that was drawn in the movie and then just fit it into scale. And I'm happy with the way that turned out.
Yeah,
it's not
good.
perfect or anything. It was challenging to get it to look right, but I'm happy with it. I added color, of course, because you got to make the dragon purple, and you got to have Prince Philip's red cape and the green fire. It's just great. So it was fun to be able to do that, and I'm happy with the way it turned out.
Yeah.
So, whoops, there go my notes. Onto the ground.
2 hours later.
Okay, so after that little interlude, some tidbits about the dragon. She is one of the more formidable... Hold that up there.
Okay.
So you can see the drawing.
I know.
She's one of the more formidable villains. She's super powerful, the dragon, in dragon form. In fact, her tough hide is actually invulnerable to Prince Philip's sword of truth and his shield of virtue, but the fairies enchant the sword so that it can actually penetrate the dragon. The dragon is, of course, if you go to the Disney parks when, the world is great, you can definitely see the dragon, especially in a couple of the parades, the Festival of Fantasy parade and the Happily Ever After fireworks show at Disney, and also in Fantasmic. That's where you can really see the dragon. As of like 2009, at Disneyland and in Walt Disney World in Orlando, they built a fully functioning dragon for the show, which is great. In Disneyland, it's a 45-foot tall animatronic, full animatronic. It's the largest animatronic ever built.
Whoa.
And they call it, behind the scenes, they call it Snaps McGee. Fans took to calling it Murphy because so many things went wrong when they were trying to make it happen originally. So sometimes fans call it Murphy. But it's really a spectacular part of the show. It fully breathes fire. It lights the Rivers of America Lagoon on fire.
Insane.
It's pretty awesome. In Florida, there's a 40-foot mechanical puppet that's on a cherry picker rig, and that was what they used to use in Disneyland before they built the full animatronic. The one in Disneyland is behind the scenes referred to as Vivian. Or at Walt Disney World, sorry. And when they used to have the cherry picker version at Disneyland, they refer to that as Dymo, which sometimes ends up getting misreported as Bucky. But it was Dymo, I think. But in Florida, they call it Vivian. And this big animatronic one is Snaps McGee.
Because Maleficent's dragon is a bit too long.
Yeah, I guess. Just shorthand behind the snes. Some other cool stuff about the dragon is the sound effects they used in the film, in the original Sleeping Beauty movie. And when they made it, there's a sound effects artist named Jim McDonald who was responsible for working on that, and he came up with the idea to use castanets for the sound of
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally remember that.
He uses castanets for the sound of the jaws snapping.
Yeah.
And
I
also
remember. It's
for
very distinct sound.
Yep, and then also the sound of when Maleficent hits her staff on the ground to make the cur sort of
I totally remember that too.
make the goons shut up. It's
Yeah.
castanets, and they use that exact same sound effect as the jaws of Tick-Tock the crocodile in Peter Pan.
Well done.
For the fiery breath of the dragon,
Mm-hmm.
Jim McDonald asked the U.S. Army to send him training films of them using flamethrowers, so you could get an idea of
We
how
need
that
pictures
sounds.
of flamethrowers.
And
Wow.
and then the dragon produces a growl when Prince Philip tries to slice at the snout of the dragon, and that was sound was made using a lamp chimney. So yeah.
Fantastic.
You kind of alluded to it before, but Maleficent's the dragon's defeat is one of the goriest in Walt Disney history. There's a full, I mean, she gets stabbed in the chest. There's full blood and gore. It's certainly the goriest villain death in Walt's lifetime,
yes.
and
Definitely.
one of the goriest ever. And also,
Instead of just implied.
exactly, and also in Walt's lifetime. Maleficent, the dragon, is the only villain deliberately and directly killed by a hero, and not the victim of their own actions.
Oh.
So while Walt was alive, this is the only instance of a hero actually
killing the bad guy.
killing the bad guy. Yeah, which segues us into Prince Philip, and I know
Yes.
it's one of the reasons.
That's why I want to be on this video. Other than Maleficent's dragon is cool, but
Prince Philip is.
Prince Philip is like by far my favorite prince.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get some of the other princes, to be honest. Like, he's awesome. He like defeats a dragon.
Yeah.
He doesn't just like show up to a ball.
Look, he uses
I
his
know.
shield of virtue
And he's got a cape.
and
I
sword
mean,
of truth.
And
So
he can dance. Like, it's all good. He can
couple of-
dance and slay a dragon.
and sing.
And sing.
A couple of cool things about Prince Philip. He was drawn and animated, as a character model by Milt Kahl,
Thanks, Melt.
one of the legendary Nine Old Men. And he was voiced by an actor called Bill Shirley. Bill Shirley didn't really he had some minor movie credits and a couple of TV things, but he really wasn't a major movie star or anything like that. He was primarily, the way he got noticed by Disney, primarily his career was what was known back in the day as a ghost voice. And they used to do that a lot in movies where they would have people act out stuff, but then they would have somebody, if it was a musical, for example, they would have somebody else sing the roles.
Oh.
If you want to know more about how that works and kind of a comedic take on that, just watch the Singing in the Rain. That's pretty much what that movie is about. But yeah, they used to do that a lot in
Like My Fair Lady.
in movie musicals. So it's interesting that you bring up My Fair Lady, because Bill Shirley actually was the voice of he dubbed Jeremy Brett's voice in the movie version of My Fair Lady.
Oh my gosh.
He's the guy that sings
He's
that.
so Freddie, right? Freddie Einsford Hill.
And he was uncredited
Yay!
for a long time for singing that song.
Wow.
So that was kind of one of the primary things he did. And then also Prince Philip, because he was more known as a singer and a ghost voice and voice work. I mean,
But
like
he did the speaking lines and the singing lines for
for
this.
Prince Philip, he did everything. Yeah, he
Nice.
was Prince Philip. He was even the character model when they did like
Oh.
live action things to draw him. He was the
Nice.
character model, and they even went so far as to have him act out full scenes with the gal who was the actor for Aurora.
Yeah.
And in the
'Cause they have some pretty intricate dance.
yeah, and even in the I read that even in the character model movies, he actually gives her a kiss in the like he actually kisses her, and they went the whole 9 yards.
So you get a pretty accurate looking kiss in this film.
Yep.
Let's just say.
And
that.
apparently all of the ladies that played the different fairies had big crushes on him and thought he was cute, and they would play tricks on him and mess with him all the time, and
Well, that sounds about right, that he's my favorite.
fun behind
He's
the scenes.
based on an awesome guy who is good looking and can sing. So I have good instincts as a child about a good prince. So.
He was named for Queen Elizabeth's husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip,
Oh.
because he was the most known male royal at the time that they made the movie. And speaking of his agency and how heroic and cool he is, Prince Philip has more lines than the only other two princes before Prince Philip were the dual Prince Charmings in Snow White and Cinderella. Prince Philip has more lines than either of those characters, and he is mute for half of this movie in Sleeping Beauty.
Wow.
And still has more lines than they do, even though he is rendered silent for half the movie.
And he, like, takes up a sizable portion of the film. Like, this is a decently long, like, scene where Maleficent, like, grabs him and then turns into this dragon and everything. It's pretty intricate, really.
Totally.
It's a long scene.
And another really cool thing about Prince Philip that I just thought was a random fun fact is there's a guidebook called the Complete Paladin's Handbook, which is a Dungeons & Dragons manual from the second edition of Dungeons & Dragons. And in that Paladin's Handbook, they note that if you're trying to create a paladin in order to play the second edition of Dungeons & Dragons, that Prince Philip should be your ideal character for trying to create a paladin. So Prince Philip is actually
Look at that!
he's
Oh my
actually
gosh!
specifically referenced in the Dungeons and Dragons guide as the model ideal paladin. Prince Philip.
See, man, and it's just so great having Maleficent as the adversary. Like, it's not just like you're saying, it's not just the seven dwarves like running her off of a cliff. Like, she's a scary, like, deadly dragon, and then he beats her.
Same sound effect though. When she gets stabbed in the chest, it's the same sound effect as the seven dwarfs running the old hag off the cliff.
Nice.
But yeah, he's cool. He actually defeats her and really saves the day. He doesn't just like don't get me wrong, I love Snow White. It is absolutely one of my favorite movies, not just in the Disney catalog, but ever. But that prince in there is like, he just shows up.
Nothing. Yeah.
He shows up at the right time. In the beginning, he just Snow White is singing.
Charming in the beginning, and then he rescues her at the end.
Is he really charming?
I think, doesn't he sing a little something? I'm trying to remember.
She's singing at a well, and he just is like, odds bodkins, that's her bagad.
That's
and then
not what they intentionally took that out. Let's be honest.
But he just shows up, and he's like, hi.
Right.
And then she's like, oh, and then he leaves.
Yeah. And then, like, at the end,
and then at the end, all the dwarves are crying, and everyone thinks she's dead, and then he's like, oh, what's happened?
Yeah.
He kisses Snow White, shaboom, she gets on the horse, magic. This one, Prince Philip's got to put the work in.
Yeah, he does. Well, and it's interesting, like, Maleficent sees him as enough of a threat that she has to, like, imprison him, and is, like, her plan is just to let him age in prison, so that way when she'll release him when he's too old to even be with Aurora, because she will have been asleep and not aging. So
in terms of fairy tales of like old school chivalry and all that sort of stuff, I think Walt Disney's Sleeping Beauty is like the gold standard.
Yeah.
For me, of actually having like a damsel in distress and a paladin that's virtuous that goes to rescue her, and he fights a flippin' dragon. Like it is fairy tale number one.
Yeah.
Like it is what you think of when you think of fairy tale, like traditional fairy tale. They nailed it. It's got everything you want. It's got magic, fairies, an evil sorceress, a prince, a horse. It's all great.
Dragon.
Dragon.
All the good stuff, yeah.
Yep.
A crow. I don't know. She's just the most epic villain. Like, really is, like, when I think of a Disney villain that is, like, genuinely villainous and just, like, really good at it.
Yeah.
Like, she's in it, because, like, I feel like Ursula is villainous, but she's, like, okay at it. Like, she has to, like, trick people and all of that. Like, Maleficent is just stinking powerful and evil.
Routinely, when you have, like, Disney has what's called the Villains franchise, where they have, like, official villains that get used, like, in the Kingdom Hearts video games and, like, some stuff like The Descendants from the Disney Channel. Whenever you have those things where there's a bunch of villains in a group, even at, like, Oogie Boogie's Bash, a Mickey Halloween Party and stuff, Maleficent is always the leader.
Cannot do it without,
Not that you can't do it without her. She's
the leader.
She is always in charge of everything. I mean, even in Phantasmic, right? She is technically, like, I guess Chernabog is, like, the embodiment of all evil, and he usually uses Maleficent as his number one Avatar. But Maleficent is usually like the dragon, whatever. She's in charge. If you think about the descendants,
Yeah.
Maleficent, and then even her daughter Mal or whatever she's called, she leads the youth, the descendants. She's the leader of their little bunch.
That's right.
So it always comes back around to Maleficent. They use her a lot as the gold standard villain of villainy.
Right. And I think that is one reason why Prince Philip is my favorite, because he has to defeat a really honest to goodness villain.
And he actually has to defeat her.
Yeah.
He doesn't trick her. He doesn't, like... I guess the fairies kind of trick her, but he doesn't. And he doesn't... There's no way for him to get out of it. He has to go ride his horse over there and stab the dragon in the chest. There's no trickery. There's no... Like you said, there's no falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
Or stuff like that. I mean, I guess to me, the next... I guess most agency the next goriest villain death I can think of is Ursula.
Yeah.
Because Prince Eric like finds this shipwreck or whatever.
That
and
one's rough.
She gets run through the chest as well. With an old
as
ship.
I think about that one, it's really, I don't know, impaling kind of freaks me out.
Ursula is scary, man.
Yeah.
Like that's another villain that's to me is just really. I did a drawing of her in last year's series.
But I feel like she's a slightly more like comical, like over the top. But like, I don't know, there's something about Maleficent because she's kind of like regal and composed in a way that Ursula is not. That like she's conniving and like plotting and I don't know, which makes sense why Aurora ends up doing what she's doing. She has no power to be able to not prick her finger. And then, like, why Prince Philip has to
save the
day. And, I don't know, be really awesome. So,
it's a good movie. It's a classic. So go watch Sleeping Beauty.
Yes, do it.
It's a great one for...
Yes. Happy Halloween. Go do something Halloween-y and very scary.
Halloween's not canceled if you keep it in your heart.
Yeah.
I hope that you enjoyed this series. Thanks for following me every day. I don't know exactly when you'll see me again, but I really enjoyed doing this series, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Thanks for following me all month of October, and until I see you again, happy Halloween, take care of yourselves and each other, and bye.
Happy Halloween!